Don't Wear Contacts Made by NewLife Vision, a creepypasta written by Devin Hoover from creepypasta.com. I don't know about everyone else, but I have always had terrible vision. Generally, it gets worse from year to year, but there are some years I'm able to skip the decay. I wear contact lenses because I've tried to avoid the nerd stigma all my life. I'm not entirely sure the contacts will help though, but I prefer them regardless. This year, my vision had gotten definitely worse. I could tell just by trying to read words from afar. I was almost out of contact lenses as well, so it was time to go see my optometrist. The visit went about as usual, doing a bunch of vision tests, getting bright lights shined into my eyes, and trying to guess what letter the big blur was once he asked me to take out my contacts. As suspected, my vision had indeed gotten worse. When I asked my doctor about ordering new contacts, he offered me a strange proposal. "This may seem weird, but I just received a new shipment of contacts today. This new company sent me an experimental set of contacts. To be blunt, I'm looking for a guinea pig to let them try him out on." That was a bit weird. New contacts? Do they match my prescription? I said, a bit confused. "That's the thing. Apparently these contacts auto-adjust to the person wearing them. I have no clue how it works, but if it does, it would be an incredible stride for optometry. Your new contacts will take a few days to get here anyway, but if these work for you, you could be back to perfect vision today," the doctor replied. I did not like the idea of being a guinea pig, especially after all the TV movies I've watched here with experiments that did not quite end well. On the other hand, this sounded incredible. Contacts that automatically adjust to your eyes? I was just curious to see if such a thing existed. In the end, curiosity won out. "I'll try them," I said. My optometrist quickly left the room with a grin and returned a few minutes later with a small box in one hand and a piece of paper in the other, which I quickly learned what the paper was for. "I'm going to need you to sign this waiver. Like I said, they're experimental." Well, it looks like I won't be getting a big payday if something goes wrong, I thought, as I signed the waiver. After getting that out of the way, the doctor sat the box down in front of me. "NewLife Vision," it read. "Helping you see a new outlook on life." What a cheesy slogan, I thought, as I restrained myself from laughing out loud. I opened the small box and pulled out the even smaller 2 containers from within. If you've ever worn contacts before, you know what these containers look like. I was easily able to put both contacts in within a span of about 30 seconds. At first, it seemed like they did not work. My vision was as blurry as it always is without contacts. After blinking a few times, however, they started to become clearer. Another few seconds passed, and I blinked a few more times, and they worked. My vision was absolutely perfect. "This is amazing," I said out loud without even realizing it. "So they work then?" the doctor asked questioningly. "Yes, they work perfectly. I might even have better than 20/20 vision now," I stammered out. The doctor laughed at this. He ran a few more tests to make sure the lenses were working right, and I passed them all with flying colors. "Well, you're free to go. The lenses seem to be working just fine. Just be sure to check back in with me in a couple of days. Oh, and one last thing," he said, as he pulled out a few folded pieces of paper stapled neatly together. "I'm supposed to give you these. These are instructions for the contacts. Anyway, have a good day." Why would I ever need instructions for contacts? I've never needed instructions before. I figured it was probably just notes on the contacts since they were experimental, so I accepted the papers. Once I got back to my car, I quickly stuffed the papers in my center console and went home. My first day with the contacts was incredible. As I had told the doctor, I am pretty sure my vision surpassed even 20/20 now. Everything was just so much more clear and focused. Colors stood out even more. I was almost hesitant when I removed them to go to sleep that night. I was actually a bit worried that the lenses would not work the next day when I put them in, but Just as before, after a few seconds they worked more than perfectly. Most of the day went on as normal, but something kept bugging me. You know that feeling you get when you swear you see something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn to look, there is nothing there? Well, that feeling persisted for most of the day, but other than that, it was all fine. For the third straight day, I woke up to put in my numerical contacts. It was Saturday, so I would have the contacts for the rest of the weekend at least. I would report back to the eye doctor on Monday. The nagging feeling I had the previous day was even gone. I guess I had just been imagining things. Or so I thought. Once again, the day went on like any other day, until I decided to venture out to go get some food. I had just gone to my favorite burger joint and had gotten some carryout. I really do not like sitting in restaurants. As I was driving home, I never took my eyes off the road, not even for one quick text message. A few blocks down from my house, though, I did blink, a simple human action. In the time it took for that single blink to occur, there was now a man standing in the road. I slammed on the brakes, sending my food flying from the passenger seat. The hood of my car was only inches from the man upon the complete stop. I was about to jump out of my car to ask the man what the hell he was doing, but that was before I got a better look. I'm not sure I could call this thing a man. It was incredibly tall, at least 7 or 8 feet, but it was scrunched over like Gollum. It was also extremely slender, as if it were malnourished. Its skin was incredibly pale, almost completely white. Its head was to one side, as it was turning to look at me. I blinked once more, and it was gone. Of course, there was no one else around to tell me if there had actually been something there, or if I was just insane. So I drove home to enjoy the rest of my meal that was not splattered on my dashboard. I took the contacts out and I went to bed early that night. Even though it was Saturday, I figured I must have just been sleep deprived. It would just be better for me to rest. I almost skipped putting in the contacts the next morning in favor of an old pair of glasses, but the allure of the contacts was simply too much. It was Sunday, so of course that meant lazing around flipping between football games. After a few hours of doing essentially nothing, I let out a yawn, closing my eyes in the process. When I opened my eyes, there was another figure in front of me. This one was short, probably about 4 feet tall. It too was hunched over, with the same slender and pale body. Its back was to me, so once again I could not see a face. I almost immediately closed my eyes in fear. When I gathered the courage to look again, just as before, the figure was gone. I was not certain that this was the solution at the time, but I sprinted to the bathroom anyway and removed the contacts. That is when I remembered. The instructions. After removing the contacts, I stormed out to my car and retrieved the instructions that I had ignored before. Those instructions read out a few guidelines that I was meant to follow. Here is what it read. Number 1, if you begin to see figures, simply ignore them and blink once and they should disappear. Number 2, if a figure appears in front of you, do not look at its face. Number 3, under no circumstances should you wear the contact lenses for more than 24 hours at a time. Should you break any of these guidelines, NewLife Vision bears no responsibility for any trauma you may suffer as outlined in the waiver which you signed beforehand. That was essentially the important parts of the paper. If I had read this before, I would never even have worn the contacts. I immediately threw them away. There is something I have not told you yet, though. I left out part of my story, mostly because I do not want to relive it, but I think it serves as an important warning. You see, when I went to remove the contacts, I saw another figure. It was standing behind me when I looked in the mirror. Its head was right next to mine, and I saw its face. I will not describe what I saw, but just know it still haunts me to this day. These are more than just contact lenses. They will correct your vision and help you see better than you have ever seen before. However, There are some things we were not meant to see in this world, something our eyes have evolved to block out for our own good. I never wore the contacts for more than 8 hours. I can only imagine what would have happened if someone were to ignore the 24-hour guideline. Even now, I have not worn the contacts in weeks, but sometimes I swear I still see the figure out of the corners of my eyes. I've considered gouging my eyes out, but it would not help. When I close my eyes, the figures are still there. Please, take my advice. If your eye doctor offers you to try out some new contact lenses from NewLife Vision, just say no.